warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you see that whether this has been recorded? It has, yeah, inshallah. Okay. Let me see.
Yes, it's recording.
Recorded now, yeah? Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya'i wal mursalin Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana li hadza wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadanallah. We praise Allah who have guided us to this place. If not for Allah's guidance, we would not be sitting down here discussing about the deen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue, to put into our hearts, we call it istiqamah. Istiqamah means steadfastness of the deen, so that we are always, be able to lead a life with taqwa and iman. And with this, inshallah, we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us with a place in paradise. Yeah. Paradise is a very expensive place to go, isn't it true? It is not, sisters, like what we see. Well, you may have heard or seen for example, Queen Elizabeth funeral, in which they will say, oh, now she will be now reunited with her husband, right? As if it is going to be that easy. Yeah, it is going to be a long journey. As you know, in Islam, subhanallah, it is so amazingly clear about the journey of our journey, your journey, and my journey of the soul after death. Isn't it true? Right? From the time that the soul is brought out of the body until the soul, inshallah, it's rested. Inshallah, all of us be rested peacefully, right, in a place called Barzakh, until when the trumpet is blown, and then we have about 50,000 years of journey before, inshallah, will be our final destination, and inshallah, it is in Jannah. Yeah, it is very clear. Not sure other religions, they have this misconception of death, the journey, where they're going to be, and as if it's so easy to be, accountability to Allah, and all this for them are based on guessing or based on assumptions, based on, well, Disney movies and all these movies that you see, Hollywood movies about, I'm sure you may have seen some movies where the ruh came out of the body, and then the loved ones waiting for you, and then you hold hands into the horizon. That is not the case, because Quran is the truth, isn't it true? And Hadith, whatever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say is the truth. Yeah, the journey itself is a grim journey, right? Was it Uthman ibn Affan radhiallahu anhu who every time when he visited the grave, whenever they were discussing about the Day of Judgment, all this, he wasn't that. Yes, of course, he's fearful, but not as fearful as when it was discussed about death and the journey after death. He would be always in tears when he was asked why, when we talk about death, you are always in tears, but why, when it comes about the Day of Judgment, you are less so? And he answered, because death itself, the journey, before the Day of Judgment, that is the beginning of everything. If everything is okay, then inshallah, the rest of the journey will be fine. But if that journey at the beginning, there's so many obstacles, subhanallah, may Allah protect us from punishment of the grave, then everything else after that will be lots of obstacles. Now, so today's topic is extremely important, and never underestimate this, because sisters, our purpose of life, your purpose of life, and my purpose of life must be the same. It's literally in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Surah 51, verse 56, in which Allah reminded us that Allah said that I do not create jinn and mankind except that they should worship me. Isn't it true? So when we are, of course, we have your families and all this, inshallah, to help each other to enhance this purpose of life. Therefore, if you were to choose a life partner, obviously he must have the same purpose of life as you, isn't it true? Because if not, it clashes. Then when the children comes, it is difficult for you to, or for the children especially, when there's no good examples at home, to be able to understand the purpose of life, right? So finding a someone, right, who is of the same or even better level than you in terms of the deen is absolutely important. I've always said in the classes, for example, if you see, or if people experience children, right, 17, 18, 19, who are not practicing, and you happen to be practicing, right? Then you have, I mean, I would blame in general, right, the parents, right? That means it boils down to the beginning stage of things, in which who do you choose as your life partner, or simply, of course, as your husband. Sisters, let's get away from all the traditions, and this is where tradition sometimes spoils everything, right? I know in some cultures, women have no choice, no say in whom they're going to marry, especially in the villages in all these Asian countries, but actually it's completely untrue. Woman has completely every single right to choose her husband. And this is absolutely important. Hadith is very clear. Prophet Muhammad said about this. Yep. That if and the woman cannot be forced to choose whomever she would marry. Of course, in Islam, sisters, we have this system such that, first of all, of course, right, we are not allowed to have, well, boyfriends and girlfriends. Very, very, very simple. However, right, we also must understand about the importance of the fact that on that basis, right, when you, especially for, I'm talking about especially for a sister, yeah, who wants to choose a spouse, yeah, in Islam it is mandatory, it's important, or most scholars would agree on this, that there must be at the permission of the um, wali. Wali is a guardian. Now this is quite complicated, especially when, well, you have an issue where either your father or even your father are not around, those who are around you are not practicing, isn't it true, right? For me personally, alhamdulillah, I have given the opportunity to conduct the marriage for many couples. Yeah. For me personally, being a person who did all this is much easier than the position of a wali, right? Because I have been appointed a few times before, but for to be responsible, right, for, or to, especially when it involves reverts, the sisters who took shahadat, and obviously a wali or guardian must be a Muslim. So I had the opportunity to be the guardian, right, of such sisters, and I would take this job seriously, because on the day of judgment I would be responsible to Allah for, well, advising this girl, right, or the sister, on a potential husband that, well, would be the life partner of this person, right? So I would do my best to ask as best as I can, of course, to interrogate literally, yeah, interrogate him about, of course, firstly, the most important thing is about the deen. Yeah, that's quite important. So in the future, sisters, especially for those who perhaps in the future you're going to have children, inshallah, right? May Allah grant all of you pious children. Um, you do need to advise your husband. It's not just about, okay, this person like this person, that's it, right? They should get married. That is not how it's supposed to be. Especially in Islam in general, there's no such thing, and you see from any hadith, right? There's no such thing that man, woman meet, spend time with each other, fall in love, and get married. That's not how it's supposed to be. Yeah, especially in that stage, we understand, for example, right? I mean, my culture, for example, um, a lot of people have boyfriends and girlfriends. Is completely wrong Islamically, because Allah did say in the Quran, Surah number 17, verse number 32, yeah, "Wala taqrabu zina," do not come near zina, and we do need to take all this seriously. And this is when, for example, when I know I was advising someone against having this brother against having a girlfriend, and she said, and sorry, he said, oh, it's okay, all right, I can control myself. And then next moment I know she became pregnant, and next time I know um, they ended up, well, aborting the child. So many sins on many different levels. And this is how, in the sense, as I said just now, in that surah number 17, verse number 32, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. And do not come near zina or unlawful sexual intercourse, but it is a fahisha. Fahisha means anything immoral, right? And an evil way that leads to hellfire unless Allah forgives him or forgive her. Then this one Bukhari, and it's important that and that we truly understand this issue. Yeah. And that is why, sadly, for example, and I can be very open with you, sisters, in Indonesia, a place with majority Muslim population, about maybe 89%, perhaps about 250 million people, right? Muslims at least. Among the teenagers, I think about 30 to 40% are no more virgins. And this is how bad it is the society has come, especially now with the social media, right? It's easy to meet people everywhere. So we do want to begin our life with our partner or with our spouse in a way that is blessed by Allah. Isn't it true, right? As it is today in 2022, the number of Muslims who are or Muslim couples, right, who are divorced, it is quite a lot. Yeah, it is a lot, right? Alarmingly. And that is why this topic on how to find a righteous spouse, it is quite important, right? And of course, after that, if we have time, we're going to go to another topic, how to maintain this marriage Islamically. It is important. The difficult, well, with the social media, it forms an advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is, of course, it's easier to meet um, potential spouse, but the disadvantage is that with all this exposure of people's lifestyle, women and of course men are influenced by celebrity lifestyle, influenced by things that you see from the influencers, the materialistic life in places or in couples which you never know it existed until social media comes in, isn't it true? You see lifestyles of husband and wife living in luxuries in southern of France, even in Middle East, in Dubai, and there is this attraction of some people to want that kind of lifestyle. It's completely beyond or what Islam has taught us. It's completely different. And that is why we do need to really understand in Singapore, for example, right? Before you get married, it's obligatory and is compulsory for them to attend a wedding, also a marriage council. Everybody must come. I can't remember. I wasn't there, so I do not know. I know they have at least 1 or 2 sessions. And it's quite important to understand this because sometimes, or on many occasions, um, a lot of times, well, the name might be Muhammad or the name might be Aisha or Khadija. Well, she might be wearing a hijab, he might be have a long beard and all this, but is Islamically completely clueless about the roles of husband and wife in a marriage. Yeah, more often than not, it is influenced by um, irrelevant and and undocumented, or should I say, without any sources from Quran Hadith about the roles of husband and wife, such that, and this is what I talked. This is the same topic I did tell to the brothers yesterday, right? It is, yes, of course, men in general is in charge of the whole family. It's like a flock, right? However, that doesn't mean that a woman is like a slave in the house. Only the woman's role is only in the house, and this is how the mentality of some cultures are like this. Is Asian cultures, for example, the Middle Eastern cultures. So much that there would be so much abuse, right? Um, one of my students is he's a family solicitor, family law lawyer, all right, in a good firm. And again, many of his clients are Muslims, right? And and they face things that it's completely un-Islamic in terms of how women are treated. Subhanallah, sisters, always remember, right? That even Prophet Muhammad said in the his last sermon, that for the men to treat the women properly. Yeah. That's how we're going to come across some hadith. For example, the hadith of Prophet Muhammad from Tirmidhi, right? That he said, "The best among you," talking to the men, yeah, "the best among you are the best for their wives, or the best to their wives, and I'm the best of you to my wives." Best in terms of good treatment and all this, right? It is for me personally, marriage is it's like a forming a union of people, or two people who wants to share the life together on the basis of preparing for a better life in the hereafter, isn't it true? And when you have this mindset, that means your search for a spouse, it must be on the basis that not because of the looks, right? You know, the hadith is very clear about Prophet ﷺ, and this goes for both men and women. Yeah, but of course, the hadith is for women, right? But again, it equally applies to the men, right? So a woman is fine. This hadith is, I think, by Bukhari Muslim. Yeah, that a woman may be married for four things: her wealth, her lineage, her beauty, and her religious commitment. So if you are not choosing a woman on the basis of the deen, then you are a loser, right? That means you may not prosper Islamically. And this is quite important that we realize this. Again, same thing for when a woman search for a man, yeah, to be a spouse. It is, yes, in general, I was talking to the brothers today. In general, I'm not being sexist, I'm not being judgmental yet. In general, and it's the worst part is when family get involved, right? For for a man who to search for a woman, in general, it is all about the looks, the body, and all this. And sometimes family get involved. No, I won't mention names, of course. How this brother was complaining, sister was looking. Oh no, right? His this the color, the girl's color skin is too dark, right? Or she's a bit too short, she's a bit too plump, and all this. Subhanallah, right? More than the deen itself. And all these lies, for example, oh, I think the name is not good, right? Then these names in Pakistani is quite a bad name. And then when I research about it, I ask the brothers of this, no such thing. So again, a lot of myth and lies are being held against the truth. Same thing in general for, and again, I'm not being sexist, right? But in terms of when a woman looking for a man, the father or parents always look at what is his job first, isn't it true? What is does he do? Is he if a doctor, lawyer, architect, completely okay, right? Regardless of the deen. And this is how sad it is. That is what a lot of marriage are having problems, on the basis that it is not on the basis of the deen. Yeah. So this is important that we do need to look back all this hadith in order um to know how should we choose a spouse, yeah, in Islam. Another hadith, of course, and it's very interesting, sisters, and you may have heard about this, about um, a woman, right? In the sense that Prophet Muhammad SAW said in hadith from Tirmidhi, yeah, any woman who dies while her husband is pleased with her, she will enter paradise. I repeat again, any woman who dies while her husband is pleased with her, she will enter Jannah. Sounds easy, but those of us who are married, you will know, right? It is quite tricky, especially when we have our number one enemy always working, lurking, working 24 hours, lurking at the corner, waiting for things to happen, fanning, yeah, fanning all these flames of um, argument and anger, yeah. Shaitan always is one of the main trophies of Shaitan. It is to sow dissensions between husband and wife. Worst thing, right? Culturally, and family members, uncles and aunties who had this hasad against you. I've seen it and I've heard it from my students, right? And people put, well, black magic, use black magic, have all this evil eye against the couple for whatever reasons, right? Yeah, because I know, for example, one sister was always having issues with health. Um, yeah, so people are actually sadly like putting the gene, right, inside other people just because they were not happy with this marriage. And this is how sad it has become, right? Very busybody about other people's affairs. Um, Personally, my my stepsister, right? Because she passed away, may Allah have grant her Jannatul Firdaus. Her husband also passed away, right? Husband was very good looking, right? Very popular among the women. Somehow or other, one woman wanted to put something in him in order for him to fall in love with her, right? And somehow or other, it didn't get to him, it got to her, to my stepsister, subhanAllah. I think she fell very sick. And perhaps because of these illnesses and all this, so she had gene inside her and all this, and she became very sick. And after that, she passed away. So these are the things that it happened in the marriage, right? Inna lillahi wa inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. That things happen, just that other people are not happy with your marriage. So a lot of things as husband and wife, we do need to take care of ourselves, especially sisters, as I've said so many times. Yeah, in Surah number 12, verse number 21, when Allah says, "Wallahu ghalibun ala amrih." Allah has a full power and control over all His affairs. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most of men do not know about this. So that means, literally, when we know about this hadith, and of course, subhanAllah, when we say our dhikr every day, isn't it true? La ilaha illallah. None has right to worship but Allah. Wahdahu la sharika. He has no partners. Lahul mulk. Right? He is the dominion. Walahul hamd. He is all praise. Wahuwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. He has the power over everything. Knowing all that, and we do say inshallah every morning and evening 100 times in intro. Knowing all this, we have to understand everything happens from Allah. Therefore, the more we are, especially for husband and wife, because this is what the topic is all about. When you are seeking protection from Allah, when you are constantly in the form of worshipping Allah, when you are constantly remembering Allah, Allah will never forget us. So a lot of things need to be done in order for this marriage to be successful. It's not as easy as husband and wife, or sorry, man and woman met, fall in love, and married, and live happily ever after. It's not that in the real world, and those of you who are married, you will know this. Yeah. So it is important that we for example, today's problem, I just quickly briefly say, in 2022, the first one, it is hard to find husband and wife in a halal way. Is it true, right? Um, well, many people, especially youngsters, they think that Western lifestyle is so open and all this. Not only that, subhanallah, now, if you have seen what happened in Saudi Arabia now, I've seen it in front of my own eyes. This man boasting, "Oh, this is my girlfriend," and she was wearing a niqab, subhanallah, right? Um, Last time, 3 years ago, yeah, before the new government comes in, we cannot live together. Now we can live together, and he was boasting in front of everybody, right? It's completely wrong Islamically, right? So first of all, in today's world, right, it is hard, yeah, to find in a halal way husband and wife. Not impossible, right, but it's difficult. Secondly, right, men and women sometimes, especially in 2022, because of studies, some people want to study their PhD. Some people at that after that they want to have a career, and therefore, it is only when they get older then they get married, like 35, 40, and that becomes difficult, especially for the sisters, yeah, because you would have missed your childbearing age, yeah. Um, Number three, of course, as again, same point that men and women are very busy with the career. When you get a job, you wait for promotions and all this. So many things come into your mind, and then your focus is not on building a life in the hereafter, but on your career. Yeah, number four, men and women in general, in some cultures, they're not allowed to marry people of their choice. And the sad part is that um, I'm sure you have read about all this news and these reports, and women or daughters get tricked, go back into Pakistan, go to Pakistan to be forced into marriage. It's not uncommon, right? And it's completely not allowed in Islam. Everyone has a choice who he or she wants to get married. Of course, a caveat with this, especially when a woman is not practicing, right? She cannot be allowed to marry someone whom, well, worst thing, they are not a believer, right? Or secondly, one is not practicing. That is why we have this safeguard in Islam that a woman in Islam must have a wali or a guardian, right, in order to approve this relationship. Of course, and there's the issue with this guardian when it comes to father. Sometimes, again, as I said, they look into careers of the man, they look into other things other than Islam, and that again creates a lot of problem, right? Number five, the problem today is also people are very fussy, right? Fussy. They have 50, 60 different criteria to find a man, for example. Sisters, nobody can meet all our expectations. There must be compromise. Yeah. When you have this, you want to have looks, you want to have career, you want to have everything. That doesn't happen in real life. Isn't it true, right? Something must give way. The most important thing is, I said, that you must hold on or look out for. And of course, right, if you are the mother and you have a daughter who wants to get married, yeah, most important thing is, of course, the deen. And I have to say something regarding this. In Islam, and I've seen it a few times, mothers, yes, you can advise, but you don't have the final say. And sometimes, because subhanAllah, I've met so many couples and all this in helping their different issues. Mothers are so dominant that some of the fathers say that, well, if my wife of the mother or the mother of this daughter does not approve, then we go by what she said. That's not how it is, right? Especially sisters, right? If there is a potential spouse who is absolutely on the deen, right, and it is rejected, and the worst thing, eventually they have children or they face difficulties in terms of the deen and children are not practicing, then I'm afraid the wali will have full responsibility on the day of judgment. That shows how serious it is. the function of a guardian in this in a marriage. Yep. So don't be fussy. Yes, be fussy on the deen. Sorry, I take back my words. Be fussy on the deen. Yes, right. What questions would you ask your potential spouse? Anybody, sisters? What potential would you want to ask? I open up to all of you. What would you want to ask? Anybody? Sister Zainab? Sorry, I think the something wrong with the speaker. Sorry, I think this Zainab Junior, isn't it? I'm sorry to use these words.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would ask if they pray.
Yes, about the deen in general, isn't it true? Right? Pray. Okay, and this is we discussed with the brothers yesterday, right? Some people use, and I ask people, subhanallah, you know me, I'm quite direct with my students, right? When I ask them, some of them, do you pray? Yes, I pray. What's my next question? Do you pray 5 times a day? And then the answer changed. Oh no, sometimes I miss. Like you need some people you do need to be specific, right? You need to be 5 times a day at least. And you pray sunnah prayers, right? In terms of the deen, you can ask where do you seek knowledge, right? You follow any madhab, and it's quite important, sisters, but madhab, because it may destroy your relationship, right? Especially when people are so entrenched in the madhab. That means in even my culture, right? We don't. Quite irritating that madhab Shafi'i. In the end, whatever these things that I do completely has no hadith, right? And they claim that they are madhab Shafi'i. So we didn't need to understand, because sometimes, right, in my culture, as I said before so many times, after somebody died, after 7 days, after 40 days, there is this thing called kanduri. Kanduri means that you gather in a group and you make a dua, read the Quran, have food, and it's completely un-Islamic. You need to ask all these specific questions, because all this may ruin your marriage, because especially when oh, I cannot go because it's not in the sunnah. And then parents are not happy, that his parents are not happy, he is not happy. It causes a lot of friction, right? Before it comes to that stage, it needs to be very clear about what deen are you practicing, right? Where did you seek your knowledge? Yeah, because I remember, I can tell you, subhanallah, there's so many experience that I had in terms of students or people approaching me, all right? One of them was about, I can't remember whether he or she, right? This one of the potential spouse is a Shia. And I have to advise very clearly about where is your stand on the deen, right? It's not marriage, sadly to say, at that moment of finding a spouse, it's not about love. It has never been about love at that moment of finding a spouse, because you're not supposed to fall in love, isn't it true? You fall in love after that. Again, as I told the brothers, I told them yesterday, brothers, right? Most of the time, if not all the time, the deen of the sister, right, will make you fall in love with her. Not the looks. The looks will never last. Isn't it true, right? The deen in general and the akhlaq, the character, eventually will be the one that you will fall in love with. And this is quite important to understand. Yeah. So other questions, of course, you do need to. Anybody wants to? What other questions would you want to ask, even for your daughters or whatever it is? What questions do you want to ask for the potential spouse? Anybody?
I think for me, I want to know how they are to their parents.
Yes, that's very important. But the parents, everything, how they treat the parents, or even how are the parents. Now, this is quite unfair to some people, right? I need to say this because I know people, right? Alhamdulillah, parents may not be practicing, but they are practicing. So a bit unfair, but it's quite relevant, right? How they treat the parents, and the parents but of course you make your own conclusions, especially sometimes when sisters are reverts and all this. It's quite tricky. or sorry, brothers are reverts in your cases, yeah. But you do need to know about the parents and all this, yeah. You can also ask, and this is not wrong, right, about any illnesses that your family has, right? Sometimes they have this and that and all this. And it may be a factor that you may want because there's some hereditary diseases and all this, and they must be and they should be quite frank with you, right, in terms of disclosing information. And always remember, when you decide to meet someone, it is always very prudent to meet with a mahram, either on your side or on his side, but most likely on the woman's side you should bring somebody, right? I'm quite liberal in the sense that in this day and age of technology, you can meet each other and talk on the internet, on WhatsApp videos and all this, but again, it's better to have a mahram beside you, right? Because sometimes there is a potential spouse in Leicester, in Glasgow and all this, right? Save the trouble, because for me, let's not waste time, right? First of all, even though we know the looks are not important, but it does play a part, isn't it true? Right? Because yes, sometimes you talk, oh subhanallah, then after that, oh, not really my type. And this is I wouldn't say it is very, very, very important, but it does play a part because you do need to have some attraction to the other party, and everybody has different tastes, right? So you do need to see the person as as quickly as possible, because then it removes this burden of, okay, what happened if I talk to this person, then looks sounds quite good and all this, then what happened after a while? Then I need to reject this person because, well, perhaps it's too skinny or too fat or too whatever it is. It goes for both men and women, right? So I always tell the brothers, really, because in the end, because you got to know each other, right? Then you have to reject because it looks quite hurtful, isn't it true? So rather than that beginning stage, that's it, right? At least you get this barrier over with regarding whether the person's appealing to you, right? Need not be the best looking person, but of course, pleasant enough for you, well, to look at him every day, right? Because it does affect many people, right? What other things that you may want to ask, sisters? Anybody? I would ask, for example, as I said just now, does he seek his knowledge? Has he been to Umrah, right? When would he plan to go to Umrah? And it's quite important also, sisters, especially for women, right? What is your view of me working if you wanted you want to work, right? And it's quite important that because and in this day and age, especially with these current economic conditions, right? When both husband and wife may need to work, right, in order to support themselves, it is important to have this agreement. You don't want to have be in a situation where suddenly you find that, oh, actually you wanted to work but you're not given permission to work, and all these problems start in a relationship, right? So at the beginning stage you need to establish this, right? Now next, potentially um, dangerous question, and I did bring up to the brothers yesterday, right? Are you just tell me, right? I just want to know, are you allowed to say, well, I do not want you to marry a second wife? What do you think, sisters?
I think you can.
Sister Laila or sister um is Laila there?
I'm here.
Sorry?
It's me, Della.
Della, yes. Are you
I think that you are allowed to, because isn't he supposed to have your you have to approve of it before he can.
I hate to say this, and this is not from my opinion, right? And don't be alarmed. This is a scholarly opinion. I'm just telling you, right? No, they don't have to have your permission, but it's always good to discuss, right? Because once Allah said in the Quran, right, something that they're allowed to marry for, right? They don't have to ask your permission, but in terms of good manners, good relationship, you do need to. But yes, as you rightly say, you are allowed to put in your contract, and one of the conditions is that you are not allowed to marry. It will be disliked because you are saying something what Allah allowed in the Quran, but it is allowed, right? According to many scholars. Yeah. So these are the things. These are the things that you do need to discuss, isn't it true, right? And you need to think about all these questions. It's not just about you meet somebody, you fall in love, and that's it. All these things you must be ready, right? Another thing quite important is that where are we going to live after get married? Isn't it true? That's quite important, right? Can he afford to always remember, sisters, and this is good news for the sisters, of course, right? Whatever things that a husband is earning, the wife has the right, every right for this, for to get part of the earning. Whatever things that a woman is earning, the husband has no right, right? And in fact, a woman can decide, okay, I do not want to work, and the husband will have to find to work and everything to support, because the husband in Islam is the main breadwinner of the family, right? So this is quite important to for you to understand. Yeah. Um, so it is quite important, because then it, well, not sure how to put it correctly. Sometimes in-laws cause so many problems, and I did advise some of my students, right? Please move out of the house, right? And I remembered one of them said no. Then in the long run, it was only about a few months after because we went to travel together. And after that, there were issues in the family and all this, and they got no choice but to move out, because at the end of the day, yes, of course, you need to love your parents. Rather, you stay with your own parents or stay with your in-laws, but you don't need to have your own space in order for your own privacy. Yeah. And this is quite difficult sometimes, especially when you have a big house and that your brother stays there with the wife, and then your sister stays there with the husband, and it creates a lot of difficulties in it, because then you have to wear hijab with your brother-in-law. It is create a lot of difficulty. So the best thing, of course, it is to um, have your own space if you can afford it, of course. If not, then perhaps yes, stay with one of either your parents or your in-laws only for a certain while. But this agreement must be there, right? Perhaps within about 6 months we can find our own house, inshallah. So all these kind of things is quite important, yeah, because sometimes the in-laws can ruin your marriage, especially when they're not practicing. Yeah. I've seen it before, right? So that's why I'm advising you regarding this. Now, is there such thing as an engagement in Islam? Can you get engaged? Anybody? Sister Zainab, other junior or senior? Can you get engaged in Islam?
I think you can.
Is nikah not the engagement?
Yes, but well, the difference is that in my culture, for example,
Yes.
is so materialistic, right? Engagement means the man will have to buy for the girl Gucci bag, Prada shoes, watch. Completely waste of money. That's not how it's supposed to engage. Engagement literally means that sorry to say, I'm losing this. Sorry to offend anybody. I'm just losing this word loosely, right? That you have been booked. Nobody can propose, and that's about it. Isn't it true? But in my culture, engagement means that you're allowed to go out in the same car, watch movies together, go shopping. That's completely un-Islamic. As long as the nikah is not conducted, you're not a mahram, and you're not allowed to spend time with each other, right? So perhaps an engagement is also means that perhaps, well, the man has not insufficient funds, right? Or perhaps the man or the woman are still studying, right? But they do not want others to propose to the girl, and therefore the engagement is being carried out. So that's about it. Engagement is just to book this girl, right? So that nobody can propose, and therefore the parents or the father especially cannot accept the proposal of another person. Then it becomes haram because you have breached this agreement. Yeah. So this is important that we do understand this engagement. You can have engagement, but it must be within the limits of Islam, right? And this is where cultures spoil everything, right? Even I was discussing with the brothers yesterday. Some cultures like the Saudi and Middle Eastern, there's this thing called mahram. Mahram, okay, this is when a lot of people get mistaken. Mahram is not dowry, right? Dowry means in general, right? What the family wants, what the girl's family wants. In some cultures, like the Bangladeshi culture, is worse, right? It's opposite, right? Not what the woman wants, what the man's family wants the girl to prepare. As in Islam, it's only one kind of mahram, which means what the girl wants, what the future bride wants, and nobody should influence her, right? And it's quite irritating sometimes that the family get involved and family said, "Oh, okay, ask her to get you a house, or ask her to get us a house, ask her to get us a car," right? And this is especially when people from the Western world, British and all this, wanted to get married with somebody online, living in Morocco, living in Algeria. And that is when they get bullied into paying all this just because you want to marry the daughter. It's completely un-Islamic, right? And this is how, sisters, right? Hadith is very clear that the best woman is always the one who is easy on a mahar. That doesn't mean that if your potential husband has a salary of, let's say, 40,000, 50,000 a year, then I do not want to ask anything. Just give me a ring. That doesn't mean that. If a person can afford it, of course, it can ask for 3,000, 4,000. It does not reflect badly on you. Yeah. But your request must not be on the basis that you're influenced by or your friend, right? This person got all these nice diamond big ring, then and he got a big car for the mahar, right? Got a house. Doesn't mean you need to follow, isn't it true? Right? Always know this hadith that the best woman is always the one who's easy on the mahar. That's quite important, right? To understand this. And therefore, for example, I know that's why I'm going to Umrah also with one of my students whose mahram of the wife is Umrah and Umrah trip, right? So this is good, right? So that means both of them are going to the Umrah, right? And he's fulfilling the mahram. The mahram can also, of course, at the agreement of the bride, be postponed at a later date, right? So, and this is sometimes, and I find very irritating again. People show off the mahram, and they don't intend to pay. And this some have to be very blunt in this. Like some cultures, the Afghan cultures, and I know, oh, don't worry, right? The man said, I give you the mahram of 15,000 pounds. But that is just for show to be put on a paper and to announce to the people. The families will announce this mahram is 15,000 pounds. And there's no intention to pay it at all. It's completely wrong. You will be liable to Allah on the day of judgment, right? Because mahram is something that you must pay. If the wife agreed that it can be paid in installments, you have, or the husband must pay in installments, 1,000 pounds a month and all this. And the money belongs to her, not to the family to be shared, distributed to the father. And it belongs to the bride. Again, this is where the cultures are completely, right, are ruining, yeah, the integrity of what Islam has taught us. Okay. Any questions so far? I hope today's talk is hopefully right able to make you understand, yeah, about the um, Islamic perspective of marriage and the cultural aspects. And the thing that sometimes again is I'm quite irritated is about the Sharia courts. All right. Now there are Sharia courts in the UK. As far as I know and I've heard about things, they are quite biased towards the men, right? And this completely again, because most of them, sorry to say this, I'm not being racist, ma'am, all forgive me, because most of them are run by Asians, right? And many Asian men are quite prone to supporting uh, the men in the sense, right? However, if you go to the English courts in general, right, English courts are quite biased towards women, right? So that there must be a form of intermediary, right? That both, if any problems in the marriage, right, they must be fair because at the end of the day, Allah will judge, right? This Sharia courts, yeah. Um, okay. So, any questions before we move on, sisters? Now,
No.
yes, no. Now, if you were to meet somebody, right, in order to to get to know the other person is allowed, of course. As I said, you have with the presence of a mahram. But there also need to be a formality. You cannot giggle, cannot, there must be like in a business transaction, very serious, right? Not flirting, right? When Allah said in the Quran that lower your gaze, yes, you should lower your gaze as much as possible. But again, when you're talk upon, look at the eyes, then look down again. That there must be this thing instead of just. And I told the brothers, I said, don't just look, and see, go up and down and see whether that's completely not allowed, right? Now, in general, we agree. We know that most scholars say that um, the potential husband who's looking at the wife can look at her face and the hands until here, right? It is not allowed to look at her without the hijab. And I don't know why some people say that yes, you can do it, and no, because you're not mahram, right? So it is important to maintain what Islam has allowed us to do, right? So this is quite important that you understand this, right? That there is this formality. There's no flirtations, as I said before. For me personally, you are allowed to meet online, right? Better still, especially when there is a mahram with you. Yeah. Um, Questions that you need to ask must be good questions, not what. Don't ask things that it's not necessary, especially when it leads to all these haram things, right? Don't do that. Yeah. um it's quite important also to begin with, right? Ask yourself why you want to get married, right? Most people think that, oh, I'm forced to get married, everybody's getting married, I'm not getting that's not a good reason, right? A good reason is always about I want to please Allah. Now, is marriage obligatory or is it sunnah, sisters?
I think it's sunnah.
I think it's obligation.
Now, it is not an obligation, right? It is a sunnah, of course, highly recommended. Why highly recommended? Well, Prophet was asked by this person, right? Three people came to him, right? One of them said that I want to fast every day. One of them say that I wanted to pray for the whole night. I do not want to sleep. The third one said that I do not want to marry because I want to concentrate on worshiping Allah. Then Prophet Muhammad answered them, I fast some days and I don't fast. I pray and I sleep and I marry. Those who is not following all this is not one of me. Because he could have said, you must get married. It's obligatory. He didn't say that. The Quran is silent about this, right? Because Allah, if it's obligatory, it would have been mentioned, isn't it, in the Quran? For sure, right? So,
Um,
yes.
can I ask a question? So why do people say that it completes half of your deen?
It is because getting married means that, as I said just now, of course, provided that your husband is on the deen, right? It it fulfills half the deen because you are, inshallah, combining forces in order to know to practice the purpose of life. Secondly, those who are married, you will know, it requires a lot of patience, and especially when you have children and all this, right? A lot of patience to bring them up and all this. It is fulfilling about half of your deen on the basis of this. Yep. So, but it is not obligatory, and in fact, is haram for some people. When is marriage haram for some people? Anybody? When it does become haram?
I'm not too sure.
When you cannot fulfill
The rights.
the rights of the marriage.
Okay.
You know what I mean, right? Like it or not, some people hide. Sorry to say this, like some a few minority men are important, right? And they hide this. And when they get married and they cannot perform, right? These acts, and then it becomes haram. Yeah, because the rights of the marriage has not been fulfilled. Yeah. So we do need to, that's why the marriage itself, it is of course a stress sunnah. It is important, of course, to have children and all that. The children understand the deen, and because of that, inshallah, the Muslim population gets more, and because of that, the children ended up also spreading the deen and joining good forbid evil. So that is the basis why marriage is so important, but it is not obligatory. Yeah. That doesn't mean that, oh, okay, sisters, I just relax and all this. No, you do need, because it's important to understand, because inshallah, if you have a husband who is practicing, is on the deen, your life is so much fulfilled, right? To be in the company of a husband who understands Allah, yeah, who is practicing. Because when you're living alone and all this, nobody is able, in a sense, you can't expect people always to be there for you. Isn't it true? Or when a husband and wife are together, they take care of each other, inshallah, with Allah's protection. They have children, take care of each other. So this is how it is. Becomes, well, is a stress sunnah. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions? Now, so it is important also to when you get married, right? If you do not have any, or you do not know where to meet or how to meet, get someone to help you, right? And it is also important to ask for always ask for a reference. Reference means not among the family members, but reference means those who knows this person, especially on the deen. So I've always been asked for references for the brothers or for the sisters, right? How is this person and all this, yeah? Now, who do you choose as a reference? There's one hadith is quite important, right? Umar ibn Khattab anhu, he was approached, a man came to him, right? And this man was praising another person very highly. So Umar asked him, are you his nearest neighbor, so that you know what is his ongoings and his comings? And he said no, right? Second question, have you been his companion on a journey that you see evidence of his good character? And the person said no. Third, have you had dealings with him involving dinars and dirham, that means involving money, which would indicate the piety of the man? And then this person said no. So Umar said, so you are telling me, you say that he's pious because you saw him standing in the mosque, reading the Quran, moving his head up and down? And this person said, yes. Then Umar said to him, this person, go away. You do not know him at all, right? So the pious person sorry, the person who is the reference, for example, sisters, you want to marry this gentleman, right? A person who is a reference must be the one either close neighbor, right? Or a person who has traveled, or a person who has dealt with in business. And that is one of the criteria of to be have a reference, right? So this is important that we understand this. Lastly, of course, sisters, istikhara prayer, right? Istikhara prayer is done not just on marriage, on any decisions that you want to make. Oh, should I move to America? Should I take this big job, right? And all this, right? So it's not just about marriage, but istikhara prayer means that you are seeking Allah's counsel, right? Now the problem with istikhara prayer is this, and I find this quite often, that you already make a decision. I want to marry this brother. It's in your heart already. So when you pray istikhara prayer and Allah showed you the signs, you cannot detect the signs because you have already made a decision. When you do istikhara prayer, your mind must be free from your decision and let Allah decide and counsel you. I remember, a few stories. For example, one of, and it's sorry, and it's need not be a dream, right? But the example that I'm giving you is somebody did istikhara prayer to marry this woman. She's wearing a hijab in this life. I mean, in this world, but in the dream, right? She wasn't wearing a hijab. There was a dog beside her, and this is quite a telltale signs, yeah. That well, perhaps Allah is giving him the signs not to pursue this, right? Another one, this person was so stubborn because he already had this intention to marry this girl, right? And despite, so how do we know that Allah is approving or giving counsel to this marriage? If it's good for the deen and for the hereafter, everything will go smoothly, right? The process of getting married, involving the in-laws, everything will be so clear. But subhanallah, the parents on both sides are quarreling and all this. Sisters, it's not coincidence. It's what is Allah trying to counsel them that this is not the marriage that Allah will be blessed, right? So, well, this person was losing weight and all this. I said, look, stop it. This is not the person for you. Go and take this as Allah's signs. And he did just that. Alhamdulillah, within about 4-5 months, I believe, found another another potential. I was the one who went to the house to marry both of them, and alhamdulillah, very happy, right? So istikhara is very important, right? And it is a sunnah, of course, but if you were to do this, then whatever things that is followed, and because you always followed Allah's counsel, whatever happened, inshallah, you'll be blessed with your decision. Questions? Now, questions? Everything okay? All right. Now,
I have a question, please.
yes.
So istikhara, you said that you shouldn't make a decision first.
No. You want to do something, right? For example, I want to study in America, right?
Yeah.
So that's it, right? The decision to go, I mean, as in the plan is there, but you must not go beyond that or whatever it is. I want to I want to find a house to stay and all this. This shouldn't be done first, right? Leave it to Allah.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of people have this mistake. For them, istikhara means, I don't know what it means. Just that you know what you're doing. You have decided it's just a ritual that you want to do because you want to make yourself happy.
That's what I heard. I think maybe it was a lecture that I listened to. They
Yes.
said that so you make a decision, you pray istikhara, and then Allah will either make it a blessing for you or the other direction.
No, it's not that Allah, you made a decision, because that so what's the point of istikhara? Isn't it true?
Yeah.
Have you done istikhara before, Sister Zainab?
I don't, to be honest, not too much,
Okay,
but
let's everybody just listen to the dua, right? I'm don't say it's English, right?
okay.
Because if what you say is correct or what you heard is correct, that it doesn't make sense with the dua, right? Let
Okay.
me look at this. Okay. Oh Allah, I ask you to show me what is best through your knowledge, and I ask you to empower me through your power, and I beg you to grant me your tremendous favor. For you have power while I am without power, and you have knowledge while I am without knowledge, and you are the one who knows all things unseen. O Allah, if you know that this matter, mention the matter mentioned in bracket, the matter that you to be decided. So if you know this matter, which is for us as is now going to America, right, is good for me in my religion and in my life and for my welfare in and in the life to come, then ordain it for me and make it easy for me, and then bless me in it. And you know that this matter is bad for me in my religion and my life and for my welfare in the life to come, then distance it from me. Distance it from me, right? And distance me from it and ordain for me what is good wherever it may be, and help me to be content with it. So this must be done before you make a decision, right? And then Allah will make it easy. For example, in terms of marriage, everything goes so well, so smoothly, right? Or perhaps you have a dream, right? And then that is it. That is your green light. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so this is more important. There's a lot why a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with Khara, because they already make the decision. So sometimes Allah's sign is very, very subtle, right? That if you already make up your mind, you wouldn't notice the signs, right? So it is something that we do need to be aware of this, right? Because you let Allah decide through His counsel, of course, right? When doesn't mean that Allah bless you with the things, doesn't mean you're not going to be tested, isn't it? You'll be tested, of course, but in the end, you're right, with patience and again with Allah's help, you will get through all these tests, inshallah. Okay, when to decide? When do you recite istikhara? Anytime, right? I would preferably do it perhaps when this is not in the hadith, right? Just my preference, yeah. That perhaps when Allah is at the lowest heaven in the last third of the night, when I pray my for what tahajjud, I will also do my istikhara, right? Because to know that, to ensure, right, that Allah listens to it and it will be answered in terms of the signs. Yeah. Now, very quickly, sisters, in regarding to a marriage, right? What is the single most important criteria for a successful marriage? Anybody? Is this what you know, right? It's called taqwa, right? Why? Because in the marriage sermon of Prophet Muhammad SAW, 3 verses were recited. First of all, in Surah number 3, verse number 1. Sorry, Surah number 2. Sorry, Surah number 3, yeah, verse number 102. Yeah, ya ayyuhalladzina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. So this is the marriage sermon of Prophet Muhammad SAW. That means the content of this sermon is a recipe for a successful marriage in Islam. Which means, right, oh, you truly believe, have taqwa to Allah as is due, and do not die except in the state of Islam. Number 2, Surah number 4, verse number 1. Ya ayuhannasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidah wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batha minhuma rijalan katsiran wa nisaa wattaqullaha alladhi tasaaluna bihi wal arham innallaha kana 'alaykum raqiba. O mankind, have taqwa to Allah, who has created you from a single soul, that is Adam, peace be upon him, and from him Allah has created his wife, and from both of them Allah dispersed into many men and women, and have taqwa to Allah, right? And using his name, you have made many requests and demands from one another, and maintain the bonds of kinship. Indeed, Allah is ever over you an observer. The third one in Surah number 33, verse number 17 to 71. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida yuslih lakum a'malakum wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum wa may yuti'illaha wa rasulahu faqad faza fawzan 'azima. Oh, truly believe, of taqwa to Allah. and speak always the truth. If you do so, Allah will direct you to do good righteous deeds, and He will forgive you of your sins. And whosoever obey Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would have achieved a great achievement that's being admitted into paradise. Looking at the content of this, right? Obviously, a successful marriage in Islam is not about a house that you have in Kensington, in Knightsbridge, not about the cars that you own, right? About the holidays that you take all the time. Is about God consciousness. For sure, if your consciousness of have this taqwa to Allah, whatever things that you say to your husband or to your the husband to the wife, you're quite conscious of Allah, isn't it true? In terms of anger, sisters, people will say things whatever they like, because shaitan is always there, right? But if you have taqwa to Allah, you would actually control your tongue. I can't imagine some marriage couples when they call themselves Muslims that they use all the 4-letter words in the marriage when they get angry. As I told your brothers, how can you just use the word talaq very freely? Talaq means divorce, right? The worst people say talaq, 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 right? That and scholars have agreed, if you say this out of intense anger, then I'm afraid that this talaq whole thing is completely void. But if you say this with the thought that you can think about this, then it's considered as only one talaq. In a marriage, you can only have three talaq, and after that, if the man is so loose upon saying these words, then subhanallah, after the third talaq, you cannot get married, you have to divorce. Isn't it true? So very important, if you got God conscious again, this is where you build your house here, inshallah, focusing on the house in Jannah, right? With you and your wife, inshallah, you and your husband, sorry, are the ones who always pray together, inshallah. You go to the mosque, you seek knowledge, you have children, educate them on the deen, bring them to madrasa or have lessons with them, always talk about Allah. And this is all about taqwa, isn't it true? Right? And this is how a marriage is successful in Islam, right? And this is important, that this is how a marriage works, full of taqwa and full of the fact that, inshallah, every one of us will question about Allah because we are like the shepherd of the flock, isn't it true? Right? In general, the sisters, especially, you don't need to, just because you're getting married, or just because you got married, and doesn't mean that, oh, I'm so busy, I have to do this, do that. You do need to seek your knowledge, because who else is going to educate your children except yourself in general? And of course, the husband, when they come back, they need to ensure that the household is intact Islamically, right? It's so sad in this country that it's unheard of in my country that the mosque has no female facilities. Unheard of. Women go to the mosque all the time to seek knowledge. Even when I went in Indonesia, me and my wife, we always go to the mosque for Fajr prayer, right? For Dhuhr prayer. We go to the mosque all the time. And this is how it is, right? So this country is a bit tricky, right? But make sure that even after you get married, do not stop yourself from seeking knowledge, because if not for the mothers who teach the children about the deen, it's difficult, because to dump your children into the madrasa and expect the children to understand the deen. Yeah. So because Islam begins at home. Yep. And even, for example, right? And you need to know this in future, inshallah, for those who are not married. Even when husband and wife having intimacies, there is a dua, it's easy to say, yeah, Bismillahi, Allahumma janibna shaitan, wa jannibi shaitana ma razaqtana. Yeah, which means with the name of Allah, oh Allah, keep the devil away from us and keep the devil away from that which you have provided for us, which you provide for us, from Bukhari Muslim. So it is important that important thing is that continuously seeking the deen, even though you are married, right? The romance must be continued, right? Suggest each other go for holidays, right? Dress nicely at home. Yeah, you're allowed to dress up for your husband, right? It's quite important, right? To celebrate things together, right? So it's very important. You know, I'm not thinking about Valentine's Day, isn't it? It's haram, right? Akhlaq, right, in a marriage is so important, because this is what I don't understand, right? Sorry if I'm being very, very blunt. Some children my students, right, whom I'm teaching, like for example, the Afghans, beautiful children, in the sense of the deen, they listen to you, they sit quietly, they do their homework. Whereas some children are like monsters running around and all this. Who do I blame? The parents, obviously. Because if you don't train your children to discipline themselves, if you don't train your children not to run around at the malls, right? Of course, children at a certain age, they will do whatever things they want, but there must be disciplinary measures to be taken if they were to make too much noise in the malls, for sure. When I say discipline, doesn't mean you smack the children, right? Perhaps that you do need to take away the benefits that they get or the privileges, right? Like sleep early, right? Got grounded and all this, right? But explain to them, of course, what they did wrong, right? Nowadays, especially sisters, before we end, right? With these mobile phones and the games and all this, it's quite sad that, again, in the family, to keep your children shut, you just give them mobile phone, that's it, right? That's it, your job is done. You can do your own things. That's completely wrong. How many children nowadays are stuck or very addicted to the phones, right? And at the dinner table, daughter is playing the phone, son playing the phone, husband is playing with the phone, and it's completely wrong, isn't it true, right? Rather than that, you do need to perhaps talk about the seerah of the Prophet for 5 minutes as a family. Yeah, it's quite important to do this, inshallah, right? Last one, of course, many verses in the Quran that Allah explained to us about how do we talk to our children. One of them in Surah Luqman. Yeah, so read through it, inshallah. But how are the things that you should address, especially on this? And this is quite strange, right? You seldom mention about. It's all about ritualistic aspect of salah, right? Bow down, what to say in Arabic. You don't explain to them what it means. Yeah. We don't explain to them what is La ilaha illallah, which is the most important thing. So all this needs to be explained to the children, yeah, in a language that they understand, of course, yeah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us, yeah, to understand the importance, yeah, of finding the right spouse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us, sorry, I'm having some sore throat, grant us with the ability to, for those people who are not married, yeah, the spouse who will be the inspiration, right, for you to practice the deen in the best of manner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are married, yeah, grant you with the ability to educate your children in the best of manners. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those whom he'll be pleased with on the day of judgment, and provide us with sufficient knowledge of the deen, yeah, and akhlaq and iman, so that all of us will meet each other in Jannatul Firdaus. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa assalamu alal mursalin walhamdulillahi alamin. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakumullah khair. We see each other next week. Yeah.
جزاك الله خير. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.